book really does center ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So really a complicated network of folks who were just really committed to a more just world. Free Black communities were arguing for some of the very freedoms that we perhaps take for granted today, like the right to vote, birthright citizenship, the right to get a job that reflects your talents and capabilities. What they did center in terms of their neighborhoods are some of the things that we would value today. The right to space, the right to be able to gather and create community. And so the themes that we see in Brooklyn in the early 19th century are the church. The Black church is at the center of everything. It is at the center of faith and politics, a mutual aid society so that members of the community can support one another on hard times, and of course education. Education is key throughout this century. Black people were creating ways, self-determined ways, to educate their own children. Again, when the public school was founded in Brooklyn, it would only admit white children. First Black school is founded in 1815, and it's actually a private school that is founded in somebody's home. His name is Peter Kroger. Out of that school will appear 3 different and distinct African schools, and that's what they're named. We have an African school in what is today downtown Brooklyn, one out in Weeksville, which today is sort of Bedford-Stuyvesant, Crown Heights, and the third one is in Williamsburg. Faith is so important in the 19th century. There's a reason Brooklyn is called the city of churches. Those churches were centers of fundraising, centers to get folks on their feet when they arrived in Brooklyn. Bridge Street AWME still very much exists today. It's in Bedford-Stuyvesant. It's the oldest Black church in Brooklyn. And I always say it is at the center of not just faith, but politics. It is a space for the Black communities to come together and to discuss things that affected them, such as their safety, the potential of being kidnapped into the South. How are they going to organize and mobilize around the right to vote? What does property buying look like? Because of course, owning property is tied to voting. And what does education look like for their children? So all of that is happening in the Black church. Newspapers were the way in which free Black communities in Brooklyn and across the whole Northeast were creating community and networks. You would see advertisements for new schools, for land that was for sale, for new businesses, places that they could travel to safely if they wanted to visit Philadelphia. Where could I stay at a hotel in which, I might not be attacked? The Hodges are 2 brothers, and of course they're a family. It is Willis and William Hodges. And like so many New Yorkers, they're not from here originally. They're born free people of color in Norfolk, Virginia, and they will move up to Brooklyn. These are agricultural folk. They are looking for land that they can buy in order to start a new life and own property, because of course they know in order to be able to vote, they need to own that property. They end up in Williamsburg, but Willis critically will say the reason to move to Williamsburg is that it is still a village. It's a village as part of the town of Bushwick, right? It hasn't joined Brooklyn yet when they arrive. And he says the racism is less, that you can grow this city in a radical anti-slavery vision. You can establish your own schools, your own churches, your own businesses, and define what those businesses mean. This is still a village that is forming its infrastructure and trying to figure out what they stand for. And so free Black communities seize that opportunity to really shape those streets and neighborhoods and think about, well, who are we in Williamsburg? What do we stand for? I do think that self-determination in Brooklyn had really something to do with that this is a city on the rise, right? It's not Manhattan. I would argue that Black Brooklynites are seizing that opportunity to really make the city that is something that they would want to live in, and they're doing that through entrepreneurship. I would say the legacy of that entrepreneurial spirit is still felt today. If you think about Spike Lee's production house, if you think about that Fort Greene arts and music movement that came out of that neighborhood, all of that idea that I can make it locally and I can make it here has great roots in the 19th century. I would say that pride and that idea of activism and that can-do spirit, all of it has its roots in the 19th century. Shirley Chisholm, for example, is only possible because of that can-do spirit of taking politics into their own hands. You think about the Congress of Racial Equality, SNCC, Black Panthers have huge roots in Brooklyn. Thinking about the ways in which the right to space and to Black life and liberty, all of that's rooted in Brooklyn.